Hello?
Gina, I need you to sit down. This is hard to say.
What happened? Is she okay?
We've got news. We found something. Her car, it was sold.
What? Who? No, that doesn't make sense.
Gina, we've been digging, and there's a lot more to this than we thought. I can't say much right now, but someone close to her is hiding something.
Oh my God. I knew it. I knew he was lying.
We need to talk. This is bigger than we thought.
I need to know. I need to know the truth now.
It's December 22nd, just days before Christmas, and in Des Moines, Iowa, two young siblings, Shanda and their little brother Jonathan, are buzzing with excitement. Their mom, Beth Ann Ricketts, always made Christmas special, putting everything into making it a magical time for her family. To her, there was no way she'd ever miss celebrating this day. But when Christmas morning comes and goes, Beth Ann is nowhere to be found, and her children, they're desperate for her return, wondering where their mother could have possibly gone. This is the haunting case of Beth Ann Ricketts, a mother who vanished without a trace, leaving her children in despair. What really happened, and who's to blame? Like, subscribe, and share to help uncover the truth and bring justice to Beth and her family.
I'm making a bowl of Frosted Flakes. I'm sitting there eating it. And all of a sudden the door opens. So it's Bill. And he's like, hey, I need you and Jonathan to get ready. We're going to Gina's house because, my mom slipped on the ice and I got to take her to the hospital. And I was like, what? And he comes over to me and he's like, get this stuff ready now. And I just remember being like, oh my God, I'm really scared. Okay. I go and I wake up my brother and get him dressed. And Bill is frantic. He's up and down the stairs, up and down the stairs, up and down the stairs, outside, back and forth, back and forth. And he's like, hurry up, hurry up. And I'm just like, I'm hurrying.
Shanda and Jonathan can hardly breathe as they climb into Bill's car. They've never been allowed to ride with anyone but their mother, and the thought of being alone with Bill, someone they hardly knew, terrifies them. This is not normal, not at all.
I just remember looking at my brother, and my little brother is just deer in the headlights, sitting in the back seat, just like, what is going on? You could tell he was just so scared. He was stiff, and I'm like, okay, he's scared. I'm scared. This isn't normal.
It's a small relief when Shanda realizes Bill is taking them to their mom's best friend, Gina. Gina's been in their lives for years, and their families are close. She knows they'll be safe there, even though something still feels wrong.
Bill called on the morning of December 22nd, and he was very frantic and loud. Isn't Beth supposed to come out there today to cut your hair? And I'm like, yes, we're going to have our Christmas later. And he's like, I have a family emergency, and can you take the kids? And I'm like, sure, bring the kids out to me. And when they got there, LaShonda pretty much ran to me. She just grabbed me and she was scared. And I was asking what is going on, and LaShonda was telling me that she was scared. Something's not right.
I start bawling. I just can't stop crying, and I'm just losing my stuff. And she's just like, hey, calm down. It's okay. You're safe now.
I calmed them down. I fed them. We just did, silly family stuff that we do.
Beth, a hairstylist by trade, had promised to be at Gina's house by 6:30 p.m. to do her hair. But as the evening passes, Gina waits. Dinner comes and goes, and there's still no sign of Beth. No phone call, no explanation. It's so unlike her.
I tried to call anybody and everybody that I could think of. Hey, have you heard from Beth? No? Okay. As the evening wore on and it got dark, And in Iowa, it is so cold. So then you've got cold, dark, scary, no word, which is completely unlike Beth. I started getting really, really worried, but I tried not to let the kids know how worried I was because I was trying to keep them calm. LaShonda was already worried enough.
Gina had known Beth for years, their friendship sparking back in 1992 when they both lived in Midwest City, Oklahoma. From the start, they were inseparable. Gina was more than a friend. She was family.
She was contagious. Always bright, bright, bright smile. Very upbeat, very funny, very smart. The hugest heart, and she didn't even know a stranger. Trust me. And everybody loved her. She was one of those people that, she walked into a room and she lit up the room just with her smile and her personality. She was great. Beth Ann was an amazing mom. Amazing. Her kids were first. She loved them unconditionally. They were her first thought.
Beth married young, and Shanda came into the world soon after. But that marriage didn't last. Then, just a few years later, Beth met Ken Ricketts, a long-haul trucker. It was love at first sight, and before long, they were married and had Jonathan. Life seemed good for a while, in Des Moines, Iowa, where both Beth and Ken worked at the Firestone plant. Gina followed shortly after, and for a brief time, everything seemed to fall into place. But as time passed, things began to unravel. Ken's growing drug addiction tore their marriage apart.
Ken had a temper, especially when he was doing drugs. And that was a problem for him. He was trying to get clean, I will say that, but it wasn't going well. But she was always the optimist that, okay, I'm going to help him. She's everybody's cheerleader.
Even after their separation, Beth and Ken remained amicable. They shared custody of the kids, and they still worked at Firestone. That's where Beth met Bill, a man 15 years her senior. It seemed like a perfect match, or so it seemed at first. Bill was reserved, serious, while Beth was bubbly and full of life. They were opposites, drawn together, but it wasn't long before Shanda noticed a shift in her mother's demeanor. Something wasn't right.
Bill shows up and the whole demeanor changes and the whole atmosphere kind of changed from this happy, giddy mood to just very serious and stoic. I just found it so strange because my mom loves to go out dancing. She loved going dancing. So then now you're going from that type of being able to have that freedom and go have fun and laugh and dance and be with your friends to we're never leaving the house. You stay home the entire time. He brings over dinner. You don't even go out to eat and you just sit here and watch movies at the house.
I had told her, we've got to figure out what's going on with this guy. Something is not right. This isn't right. Why is he not taking you out? Why is he not introducing you to friends? 2 years. Why haven't you met any family? Why haven't you met anybody?
She was just kind of under his spell, and eventually their personalities are going to kind of clash.
2 years in, and Bill proposes to Beth. They're engaged, but by December of 1997, cracks are starting to show. Their relationship has soured, and on the night of December 21st, just hours before Beth vanishes, things come to a boiling point.
I just remember my brother and I were kind of being annoying, like siblings do. I got sent to my room, and I stomped up the stairs, and I told her I hated her. And I stayed in my room for the rest of the night. That's the last conversation that I ever had with her. I didn't mean it. I was just a little punk kid, but I can't believe I said that, The next morning, I wake up and I see my mom in the bathroom getting ready. And I wanted to go tell her I was sorry, I wanted to tell her I loved her. And I want her to go talk to her, and Bill would not let me talk to her. He was like, no, you need to go back to bed. It's way too early for you to be up. It's 5:30 in the morning. You need to go lay down. He comes back in the room with this little alarm clock, and he's like, you can't get out of bed until 9:30. But I was just so upset that he wouldn't even let me tell her that I was sorry or like I love her or any of that.
An hour later, Beth and Bill are in the entryway, getting ready to leave. As they prepare to head out, Shonda, angry and defiant, sneaks down the stairs. The tension in the air is thick, and she knows something's off.
I am in the hallway listening to their conversation. And they're about to go eat at Perkins, like a breakfast place. And I hear them kiss, and then they walk out and they take separate cars. So he pulls out of the driveway first, and then she pulled out of the driveway, goes to the stop sign, and that's the last time I ever saw her my whole life.
Later that same morning, Bill comes back to Beth's house, now taking Shonda and Jonathan to Gina's place. They wait there all day and all night, holding on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, Beth will show up, but she never does.
I get everybody tucked in and calmed down, and I call the police and try to report Beth as missing. I tried to explain to them she would never leave her children, ever. She would have at least called me and said she was running late. Besides that, she had already planned all these things. That giant Christmas for her. No, she would have never done that to her children, ever. But the police won't hear it because they said that, she's a grown adult. We have to wait 48 hours before we can even think of doing something like that.
What Gina doesn't know yet, though, is that while she's trying to keep the kids calm, something darker is unfolding. 8 hours after Beth was last seen driving away, a fire breaks out at her house. The Des Moines Fire Department responds, but no one can explain why.
It seemed to be contained to the bedroom that was Beth Ann's bedroom.
Paul Parizek is a sergeant with the Des Moines, Iowa police. He's been in law enforcement long enough to know when something doesn't feel right. And when Beth's case started to unfold, he knew this was going to be different.
The actual cause and the source of the fire was never really to be determined. It was undetermined origin. When you look at the photographs, it's very difficult to tell. You can see that what was burned intensely, but it's difficult to see from those photographs where it actually started.
The morning after the fire, a local news station runs a report on the blaze at Beth's home. Gina, desperate for answers, knows something's off and calls the police again, hoping they'll take her concerns seriously this time.
Our duplex showed up on the news, and that's when Gina was like, you know what? I'm calling the cops. She calls them and says, hey, their house was just on the news burning down, so can I go ahead and make a police report because the mother has not contacted us?
It's finally official. Beth is missing. The first person the police want to talk to is her husband, Ken. They know he'd been at Beth's house on the day she disappeared because firefighters found an angry note he'd left on the front door, frustrated that no one was home when he showed up to take the kids to a birthday party.
Once we made contact with the ex-husband, it became pretty obvious to us that he was not involved. He seemed very genuine in his concern. His behaviors didn't indicate to us at all that he had any knowledge about what had happened.
By Christmas Eve, Gina is losing patience. She's watched the police do little more than shuffle papers. Feeling like no one is doing enough to find Beth, she turns to the media, calling up local TV reporters and begging them to get the word out. She won't let her friend be forgotten.
That night, all 4 TV stations in Des Moines, Iowa had a story on this missing mother. And after the first, the early edition of the news hit, I get a call from a detective.
One of the detectives tells Gina that they've received an angry phone call from Beth's fiancé, Bill.
Apparently, he's furious about the missing persons report and insists that Beth isn't missing. He claims she's just taking some time alone to work things out and that he's still in contact with her.
He's very upset that she's been reported missing, and he said that she's not missing. She's very mad. She's called me a bunch of names. She cussed me out. She doesn't know why we're doing this to her. And the detective who took that call at that time actually canceled out the case and indicated that she was not missing.
Gina's gut tells her something horribly wrong, and she's convinced that Beth's disappearance isn't just a case of someone wanting space. She knows things about Beth and Bill's relationship that nobody else does, and those things are enough to raise serious concerns.
She had this conversation with me, this long conversation about how she was scared of Bill. One of the people at the factory came and told her that he was on probation. She didn't know about this at all. And when she confronted him with it, come to find out, he had been on federal probation for trying to rob a bank.
Gina starts to wonder if there's a financial motive behind Beth's disappearance. Just days before she vanished, Beth had received a significant sum from a workplace injury settlement. Could this sudden windfall have been the key to why she went missing?
My mom got hurt at work and went to the doctor, and the doctor wrote a note and was like, don't lift over 10 pounds for right now and let it heal, and we'll check back on you and then we'll let you know. She gives the note to her supervisor, and the supervisor is like, I don't know what to tell you. We're shorthanded. You have to go here. So she goes in there. They're doing their jobs, and all of a sudden a chain broke. The tire fell off of the assembly line and rolled on top of her body.
That settlement gave Beth enough money to make life easier for her family, to finally buy the house she dreamed of, to upgrade their lifestyle. It was a new start. But what if someone wanted to take that from her?
She was excited to just change our lives. And she was ready to be like, okay, we're going to have a really good life, and we're actually going to be able to do stuff, and we're going to be able to go on vacations. And she was like, we're going to find a place to live. We're going to find a house. So she was just so excited about being able to do that. I had never really seen my mom like that. So I just remember looking at her and being like, wow, she's just really, really happy person.
She had talked about trying to take that money and do a salon again. She was so excited about moving forward in life and giving her kids this giant Christmas that she hadn't been able to do in years.
She was Christmas shopping left and right, buying all this stuff. And I just remember she went downstairs one day and she said, you guys are going to love Christmas. You're going to be so happy. It's going to be amazing. You're just going to love Christmas.
Bill, however, had his own ideas about how that settlement should be spent. He pushed for a joint bank account, trying to get his name on Beth's new car. But when she refused, things started to feel less like love and more like control.
He tried to get her to get like a joint bank account, and he kept pushing and pushing. Well, if we're going to be a team, I need to be on her new car. And she didn't feel comfortable with that. And that's when he decided he was going to marry her, and he loved her.
Beth eventually gives in and agrees to put Bill's name on her new car against her better judgment. But when she discovers that Bill has been hiding some shocking secrets, like his past arrest for trying to rob a bank, she begins to question everything. And when she finds out he's been leading a double life, living with another woman, she knows she can't stay with him.
She finds out he was married. He had an entire relationship with someone else. He was living a double life. She was seriously heartbroken over that. She was just like, I'm done with this. I don't want to be with this person anymore.
When she disappeared, she was in the middle of trying to get rid of him. And she told me, if anything happens to me, you need to look at him real close. You need to know I don't trust him. I'm scared of him.
Gina knows that Beth was terrified of Bill. She told her more than once that she feared him and warned her that if anything happened to her, that Bill was the one to look at. She also tells the police about the cash box Beth kept in her bedroom, the room that caught fire on the day she disappeared. Something doesn't add up. Police finally reopen the case, now looking at Bill as a person of interest.
Once we ruled out the ex-husband, you start looking at the fiance. When you start looking at some of his behaviors that really raised the red flag, the calling in and saying that she contacted him and she was mad about being a missing person. She didn't get a hold of us. And it just got even worse as it went on. Over a period of 6 or 7 days, and this is after that she has gone missing, he reports to us that he saw her. He said that he had physical contact with her. Either he couldn't remember if it was December 30th or December 31st. And that she was kind of gathering her thoughts, trying to figure out what she was going to do. And he said that he was not surprised to see that Beth was gone for days, but he was only surprised that she didn't take the kids with her. But he offered us no guidance, suggestion, or help in where we could go and confirm that she was okay. And he could offer up no explanation as to why she wouldn't contact anyone and why he was the only person who had seen her. Also, another red flag. In early January, he had taken both his car and the car that Beth Ann was last seen driving and taken them to a car dealership, traded both of them in and got a new car. There's a couple questions that come to your mind right away. Why did you trade in both your cars? And if Beth is okay and she's moving around, how is she getting around?
A few days later, police tracked down Beth's car at a dealership where Bill had sold it. It's been cleaned and detailed, but the car might hold more clues than they realize.
We impounded it. We examined it for evidence. But at that time, the car had been detailed and prepped for sale. So it had been shampooed and vacuumed and polished. There was nothing of any significant evidentiary value.
The police have a lot of questions for Bill. They call him in for an interview, hoping to get some answers. But every time they try to pin him down, he disappears. First, he claims he'll show up, then doesn't. His probation officer confirms he had no intention of cooperating. It's starting to look like Bill is doing everything he can to stay out of the spotlight.
There was one point where he said that he was going to come in and he didn't show up. There was some follow-up done with his probation officer, who also indicated to us that the fiance had no intention of showing up. And then that's when we lose contact with him. As time went on and new cases come in and he slips, from the limelight here in Des Moines, he was able to avoid ever going face to face with us. That looks like the behavior of someone who's trying to hide something, as does a fire in a home.
Despite all the red flags, there isn't enough solid evidence to charge Bill. Theories swirl about his possible motives, but they remain just that, speculation. Still, something about the situation doesn't sit right, and the investigation continues.
Motive is one thing that is often very difficult to identify. There's a couple different theories here. One was that it was about the money. Another theory is that Beth had become savvy to the fact that there were other women in his life. That is a potential motive also, to silence her.
On Christmas Day, Gina and Paul are forced to make the heartbreaking decision to send Shonda and Jonathan to live with Ken Ricketts, Beth's estranged husband. But Ken can't care for them either, so the kids are sent to live with other members of his family. What should have been a day of family togetherness becomes just another layer of pain in an already tragic situation.
The people that we ended up having to be with down here in Oklahoma, would make cruel remarks like, "Your mom's not missing. She drove to a lake and stabbed herself to get away from you." Just awful, awful things. And so for the longest time, I was just like, this is all my fault. I drove my mom away. And it was, yeah. I thought she was still alive for a long time. I really thought she was just taking a break and she'd just drive down the driveway one day and come get us, and I wouldn't even be mad at her. I'd forgive her and move on, and I would just be happy that she's back. And I think I held up that hope for about 5 years after her disappearance. I think after the 5th year, I was just done.
Nearly 25 years later, Beth's disappearance remains unsolved. Detective Parizek and the rest of the team are still hopeful, still working to bring closure to this haunting case. They won't give up until they have answers.
At this point, we don't believe that she's alive. What we want to do is put the effort into seeing what we can do to find Beth's body. I was just speaking to our cadaver dog folks that helped us out on another case, and I learned that their dogs can smell bones that are 300 years old. So we've got a lot of resources that are available to us once we figure out where we want to start looking. We also want to go and we want to find people who were there then, people who knew Beth then, who think they maybe have some information, or they might know something, or maybe they saw something, or maybe they've thought about this for years and didn't think it was something. We want them to reach out to us.
For Shonda and Jonathan, the loss of their mother during what should have been the happiest time of the year is something they've never been able to shake. Christmas will never be the same for them again, and the weight of that loss lingers year after year.
I hated Christmas. I hated it so much. But I had to get over that because I have a baby. So I just kind of take a page out of my mom's book and I've made Christmas as special as I possibly can. And, my little kid actually loves Christmas. He freaking loves Christmas. He's restored Christmas. Yeah, my little boy has restored Christmas.
Every December 22nd, I will buy a big white candle every year. And I light it every year. Because I'm never going to give up looking for her. Even if it's just to put her to rest. I just want to find her. So we can get some kind of closure. Because come December, it will be 25 years ago that she disappeared. And somebody knows something.
Last week at church, they were talking about forgiveness. And I cried the whole sermon. No one will ever understand what it's like to pray over the person that killed your parent. You pray over their protection so that one day you could sit in a courtroom and see justice served. So you have to pray for them to be safe so that you can someday sit there and hear justice for your parent that was taken from you. Because that's what needs to happen. And it's not fair. Life's not fair, I get that. But it's time to get justice for what they've done. So that we can have peace. So that we can move on.